Hey there, sorry I was late. I had this weird thing happen on my computer where the clock on the computer gets behind. And so my computer says it's only 2:57.
Hmm.
So I need to keep checking my phone and make sure that doesn't happen again. Um, anyway, so Jim and Karen are both not able to be here, our committee co-chairs. So I am gonna lead us through, this should probably be a quick meeting because we are really at the point where we're getting down to the main learnings from what we've been looking at in early voting. Um, so we have one more meeting in June before the July 15th meeting, and that's when we're really gonna kind of hone in on what we want to present to the rest of the commission. So I sent Jim and I worked on a draft of recommendations that I sent probably at like 10:30 this morning, so probably nobody's had a chance to read it. Which is fine because we only have what, two members of the committee right now. I knew we'd be scarce. It is a long weekend after all, coming up. So what we're probably gonna do is have folks read the draft and send in comments to the whole group, and then we'll discuss in June. But we can certainly um, think about, how we fill out that report over the next couple weeks, and then finalize that June 28th. I think our next meeting is like right at the end of June. So, not a whole lot of time before July 15. Um, so, Susan and Leslie, are you all planning to come to the in-person meeting July 15th?
Hope so.
I can't. I'm facilitating a conference in Nashville that day or that week.
Uh-huh.
You are a busy person.
Too busy. But I did get a chance to read it. I think it looks great. What I couldn't remember was if there were outstanding questions that we thought we were going to get from some of the surveys related to early voting, and if so, what were those? That's what I was trying to remember. Like what else were we trying to?
Yes, we have only gotten two surveys back, High Point and Meredith. Michael Bitzer said there, two more to come in still. And so I'm not sure that there were specific that our early voting questions got in either one of those. I don't remember seeing those. Um, I did, if you note in the draft report, I did pull in polling data that was national about how much people like early voting. But I did not have any specific North Carolina survey results because of that. So these are things that we can add to the report later as they come in. I don't think that the discussions that we've had would have changed a whole lot had we had, because we kind of know that people like early voting, and
Right.
it's really about finding the sweet spot on so many things. I don't know if you noticed, Leslie, I did look at after the whole discussion about early voting sites and how many and where they're located and all that. And by the way, Michael does have, he hasn't given me the spreadsheet yet, but he has done a lot of, oh, what does he call it? And analyzing of the early voting to see, what factors affect it. And I will get that from him and we'll share that around. So he does have that just in terms of the statistics about
Okay.
who uses it. It's very, very interesting. I heard him present some of that. So we will get that in. But I also pulled from the State Board of Elections, all the counties' early voting sites and dates from March, which was a primary, so maybe not quite as extensive in terms of early voting sites. But what was interesting was that not every county had a Sunday voting day, and there may have even been some that didn't have a weekend day at all. Some counties, many counties, had one site, which was the Board of Elections site, because they just didn't have the budget.
Right.
to have more than one site open. So, the whole thing that we were discussing about, would it be helpful to have guidance to how many early voting sites per population? Seems kind of moot.
Mm,
because because there's so many that they can only afford to have one and don't, like, some counties have 10,000 people. No, some counties have like 7,000 registered voters and that's it. I think there was even
mhm,
one that had like 3,000. So it's just really hard in North Carolina to have even general guidelines when you have that
Mhm.
much diversity. If one county has got 1 million people and 777,000 registered voters or something like that, and then one that has, 3,000.
Although I do think your example is pretty significant, right? That Pender County only had
Mhm.
the 4 sites, and then Henderson, which is, twice as large, I guess, had just a single voting site. So I do think I think it's worth recommending, right? That there is some sort of parity in how that's decided. Now, in terms of capacity, I don't know that anything could come from it. But again, to me, this is all about awareness. Like, were you aware that some people have a lot more access in a lot smaller places than some places? So I think it's worth, yeah, I think it's worth talking about still.
And I had a chance to read it too. I'm happy to
Good.
say, a lot of times right before a meeting like this, I don't even have time to look at email, but I did today, and I was very impressed with it. I did have one question. Have we had complaints from people about, or do we know, are there a lot of complaints around the state about early voting?
We have had that from students.
Uh-huh.
Um, Absolutely. We've heard that sites are not accessible by public transport. They're not,
Mhm.
or places don't have enough parking. We've heard that
Mhm.
both for early voting and for day of,
Uh-huh.
um, in terms of sites. So yeah, the locations are important and the access is
Right.
important.
And did
Um,
we speak to that? I can't remember.
Well, that was part of the discussion about should there be a guideline to how
Right,
many
right.
sites and that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. So
We
those are
can we
connected.
can we can add um the guidelines, and the election administration folks are looking at the same question because clearly the day of
Mhm.
election has the same issues for making sure site location. So we absolutely can add that that can be a fifth bullet in terms of requirements for each site. Is there
Mhm.
handicap accessibility? Is there enough parking? Is there public transportation access? So I will add that as a fifth bullet point. Um, that's a good,
Are,
I
are,
really
yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Are we looking with our final product to influence the legislature to do something about this? Or, I mean, what is our end goal with this exactly? The report in
So
general.
yes.
Mhm.
So the idea is, yes, we hope
Mhm.
that someone will read this who has the ability to improve and make
Mhm.
changes. Whether that is the legislature, whether there are things that fall within the administration that people can do without having to get a law passed.
Mhm.
That's also a possibility. So we are going to release the report to the legislature, to the governor, to the Board of Elections, and they're not mandated to do anything with it, right? But if we have a bunch of folks who hear about it and thinks there's some really good ideas in there, who then advocate on their own behalf, even the League of Women Voters, the
Mhm.
voters, Veterans for All Voters, the two groups we have that are also helping with the town halls, they may pick up some of those ideas and say, hey, yeah, this would be great for our voters as well.
Mhm.
So there are all kinds of possibilities of things that can happen. It really depends on, who picks it up, and how much pressure we put, and how we prioritize. I
Right.
think there may be some things that come out, we're like, oh my goodness, that's an urgent need. And then we
Mhm.
hope that a lot of groups pick it up, because
Yeah.
there's Democracy NC, there's the
Yeah.
Carolina Journal. I mean, they're right and left folks who are watching elections very closely. So,
Right. Okay.
but no one's required, as in
Right.
a lot of political stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think the citizen awareness is, I mean, I've learned so much, you know, the 3 committees I'm on, and I mean, I'm a chief judge, and so much of this, I just had no idea how they run, so.
Yeah.
Well, and that brings us something else we're going to talk about in July. Once these meetings end, we do hope members of the commission are willing to be interviewed by the media,
Mhm.
right? I think there's a lot of great storytelling about things we've learned, and that the average person doesn't think about. There's
Mhm.
some states that have 45 days of early voting. Who knew?
Mhm.
Right.
Um, but that's going to be another thing we talk about in July. It's like who's willing to be interviewed and
Mhm.
talk about process and interesting things that they learned.
Oh,
Because
Jennifer, that reminds me, I did have one thought, and that is when we talk about we're fairly average, right? We're in the middle. I think it would be interesting to say with the lowest being 5 days and with the longest being, just so that folks have sort of a sense of the possibilities and or yeah, I mean, yeah, I just think it was helpful to me to go, what, 60 days or whatever the biggest was, and I can find that in that chart I did.
well, I think
And
there are
I,
4 states that have no early voting.
Right,
Right.
right. Yep, we had before. So I think it'd be important to say, look, we're doing all right, but if this becomes an issue, it's also could, especially as the state continues to grow and
Yeah,
right, there may be a time when we need to say, hey,
yeah.
we need more days to get more folks involved.
and I think people will be surprised, the average person will be surprised at how there is no consistency between locations. I think that was a surprise to me. And I think people will say, wait a minute, I'm not being treated fairly in my county. So
Wasn't
anyway,
that
it'll be
fascinating?
interesting.
Yeah, that document with all the early voting sites, that was fascinating to look through because I pulled up population of counties and then put it side by side.
Yeah,
um, by the different early voting things, and that was very, very interesting.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, there was like no consistency.
Yeah,
Mm.
really. That's interesting.
I also didn't know that there were some counties that didn't have, weekend days.
Mm.
Right. Wow. I don't see how they can get away with that, really. Because there's some people that have no time off during the week. You know, it seems, I'm surprised that we don't hear more complaints from them.
Well, unfortunately, the people who vote, the numbers have been going down, right? So, except in presidential years and certain
Yeah.
presidential years, they go up quite a bit. But I
Yeah, and I
agree
would
with
also say we have no sense as to chicken or egg, right? Maybe
Right.
people don't complain or disengage because they don't have one near them and they don't have days off and there's no weekend voting. So they just already a long time ago were like, it's not for me. Right.
Right.
So is it the access that made them apathetic, or are they apathetic and the lack of access just feeds into it, right? Because they don't see a polling place nearby, it's inconvenient, it's not on the weekend, and they work. So I think that's the other question that would be interesting beyond the commission to really start to understand non-voters better.
Mhm.
That's right. Good point.
Yeah, we'll have to find if there's a survey of people who are not even registered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I
Right.
tell you, when I was walking neighborhoods, I ran into some interesting excuses.
Mm.
One gentleman, his wife was a precinct chair, and he had never voted in his life. And he said, my daddy told me that politics was corrupt and dirty and nasty. I should stay away from it.
Wow.
Interesting.
But
Yeah,
his
my
wife was a precinct
brother-in-law.
chair. I
Yeah.
know.
My brother-in-law never voted until a couple of like maybe 2 elections ago because of the same reason. It's doesn't matter, it's all corrupt. What's the point? And yet he's the biggest like opinion about public life, and it's like that disconnect of like this is one way you express that. You can complain all day, or you could do this and many other things. So, but yeah, I'd be curious about motives and a deep
Mhm.
dive into that. Because it might cycle us back to access for some, for some.
Right.
We can put that in our report that it's not clear if, you know, the lower numbers of voting, you know, like you said, it's a chicken or egg thing. I think we can put that in the report
Mhm.
too.
Yeah,
In
I
fact,
think
if
it's
you
worth
wanna,
mentioning.
yeah, if you want to, Leslie, if you want to send me an email that kind of frames that, just like that sentence, or like how you'd want to
Sure.
that, I'll put it in there. That'd be great. And then, yeah, site specifications, which we need to add a whole bullet point on that. I do remember that Michael Bitzer, when he was showing me the way he had sliced and diced the information in terms of who votes in early voting and like, you know, when in early voting people show up. Apparently, a lot of people vote in the first couple days and then it trails off, and a lot of folks vote in the last couple days. So it's like an inverted bell curve, which is interesting, which makes
Mhm.
sense because the media probably talks about it a lot when it first starts. And so people are aware. And then like it becomes, you know, the next week and they're like, okay. And then they realize there's only a few more days left and they're going to be out of town on election day. And they're like, oh, I better go vote. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's probably true no matter how long the early voting period is.
Mhm.
True.
So,
But yeah, I think it looks great. We add a couple of elements to it, but yeah, I think we've taken it as far as we can pretty much in terms of what we found out.
great. Yeah, I'll get that. I'll get the Michael Bitzer graphs added. It's also interesting to see, he broke it down by political party, and it used to be that Democrats voted early a lot more, and now it's almost about the same. Like Republicans have
Oh.
caught on to
Hmm.
voting early. So it's used equally by both parties, which means it's popular across the board,
Mhm.
which is good because it will probably means it will stay.
That's good to know. Yeah, I'd always heard that narrative that Democrats really embrace it more.
Yeah. And that's probably, I mean, initially probably because more Democrats are hourly workers.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, again, that some of that mix is changing
Mm-hmm.
with the way labor is going, et cetera. And so that could reflect that as well. But as I said, it's good that it's being used almost equally because that means it has broad support.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, good. Well, I'll add that in as well. I'll send that around to the committee when I get that from Michael. And yeah, just email me any more thoughts you have to add to that document, and we will try to get it in better form by June 28th and try to send it out to people before that so we can kind of finalize it. And it's, you know, it is a draft. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we'd like to also think about at our June 28th meeting, what are the 2 or 3 things we want to highlight that we learned or that we would recommend when we go to the big meeting in July.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be
And
thinking.
I misspoke. It looks like I will be there on the 15th. I actually leave on the 16th for my
Oh, good.
conference.
Good. If you need a room, let Rachel know
Okay.
because Rachel is helping. Catawba has 25 rooms reserved, and Rachel's helping make sure that Michael puts those names with the reservations.
Great.
So let us know. I told him
Okay.
I'm only like 50 minutes away from Salisbury, so I said if there's a room left, I'll take it. If not, I'll just drive up.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll
Monday
just drive in.
Yeah, it's not really that far for us in Charlotte.
Right.
Very good. Anything else? Did you guys meet Dimney, by the way? I was late, so did you all meet
We
Dimney?
didn't. I saw it pop up.
Okay. Sorry, Dimney is our summer intern.
Hi.
Nice.
Super.
Hi, Debbie.
Hey, welcome. Thank
Sorry, I've
you.
just been sitting here taking notes.
Taking
Great.
notes. And she's going to help us with logistics and some of the things that we're doing for the election commission and for the town hall. So
Right,
Great.
super.
All right. Nice to meet
I
you.
don't-
Nice
I
to
don't
meet
know.
you all.
Yep. And Dimney, tell them where you're in college again.
I'm at UVA. I'm from Raleigh, but rising junior at UVA. So
That's good for you. That's great. Great
yes.
school.
Mhm.
And is it political science that you're focusing on?
Yes, technically it's called a government major. I'm on an American politics track, so basically yes.
Great.
Good. Super. And you'll be with us until like mid-August, right?
Yes, I'll be at the meeting in person and doing work until August, so.
Great.
Dimity, just checking in, it's Rachel here. Will you need a room for the meeting on July 15th? Or would you be okay with driving up day of? It does not
I think
matter.
I'm just gonna commute there and back the day of, or I have a friend who lives outside of Salisbury, so I could just stay with her too. So I don't think I
Okay.
need a room.
Okay, well, if you do end up changing your mind, just let me know.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, well, super. Well, I'll let you go early so we can start your long weekend early. But thanks so much for reading that stuff and sending me your edits, improvements, and we'll keep working on it till our next meeting.
Great.
Super.
Have a
I
great
look forward to
weekend
seeing
and
everybody in
holiday.
Salisbury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Alright.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a bunch.